Yeah. Okay. So, Dustpan, you were recommended personally by Void. I said, who should I talk to? And he goes, oh, you got to talk to Dustpan. I was like, okay, I don't know who that is, but we're going to find out.
I'm touched.
So, yeah. So I believe you're a mod, right, for DKC2?
That is correct. Across all 3 games, actually.
Oh, nice. You must be well respected in the community.
I guess so.
I'd hope so. All right. So when did you first start getting into? I guess, well, since you're more knowledgeable in all of them, which ones do you run?
I've run all 3 in the past. I know the speedruns for all 3, but my main game is DKC2.
Okay, cool.
I've learned all the ILs for DKC1, all stages. DKC3 is it's one of those games, in the community. Either you love it or you hate it. I enjoy running it for about 2 weeks at a time, and then I'm sick and tired of it. But DKC2 is definitely the game I'm most familiar with, and probably the one I know the most.
Okay. When did you first start getting into DKC2 speedruns?
I found the community in around September 2015. And I've the last 5 years have just been such a blur to me. I've learned so much, I've done so much, and it's hard to believe it's been that long. I still feel like the new kid sometimes. But yeah, I found Void, Canis, Season, all those guys around then. Void had already had the world record at the time. It was 40:35. He was working on having his way with 102. And that's when I found him. He was very personable and just welcomed everybody in his chat with open arms.
Yeah.
That's about when I got into it and started speedrunning it around October, I guess, was my first race in the weekly. I game overed, as most people do in their first runs. And just slowly over time, got better. And, participated in the tournament in 2016. And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. I've heard about this tournament, but anything that was notable that came out of that?
I think the tournament in 2016 really opened the doors for more introduction to the community. More introduction to the community, I should say. Discord was just starting back then, and DKC community was just organizing, and we were just getting to know each other. And this tournament really helped attract a lot of new people, people that were influenced by the runners in the tournament. We saw a lot of people rise up and get better so fast throughout the tournament too. Kryptonberry was one of them. Otterlinks, Canis, Kipples. I mean, we raced every day for ad nauseum just to stay in shape. And
goodness,
there's just so much to say about that. It was really a surreal time because we were really like the first ones to really bring DKC into the public, I think, aside from the GDQ runs, obviously. But the ones that really sort of put us out there, I guess, was the tournament, and that's when the Discord kind of blew up, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I asked Void, and he was like, "Yeah, it was whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
It's whatever for him. I mean, probably, and those runners that were very, very good at the time. I wasn't nearly as good now than I was back then, so it was really new and exciting for me. Getting to see all these racers every day and learning new things and the competition. It was different for me, I guess, because I was so new, but he was already established as a world record holder, been playing for so long, and already had such deep, intimate knowledge of the game.
I gotcha. Yeah, tournaments are fun, man.
Oh, they were so much fun. We've had a couple of DKC1 tournaments. We had a DKC3 tournament. I think we're putting them on hold for a little while now because inundation is a real thing.
Oh, absolutely. Got to make them special.
Of course.
Okay. So I guess as a brief, go ahead and describe the run, like in general, like not every little detail of all the levels, but what are the key aspects of DKC speedruns, right?
DKC in particular, like anyone in particular, or just DKC2?
DKC2 in mainly, but
right.
I mean, I'm curious if you have anything to say about DKC in general.
There's definitely similarities between all 3 games in movement. So once you learn one of the games, the basics can translate pretty well across all 3, like rolling and jumping. jumping out of your rolls at a certain time, and that's probably where the similarities end between all three. DKC 1 is broken compared to the other two, with the ability to do a reverse boss order speedrun. You can warp almost anywhere you want in that game due to the way invisible objects and IDs work. DKC 2 also deals with invisible objects and IDs a lot. Their trademark is more of a technical speedrun, wrong warping in particular. I've lost count how many there are now. There's got to be 7 or 8.
I think so.
Yeah. And each one, shaving off 20, 30 seconds at a time, unless it's the Castle Crush. The Castle Crush wrong warp can save up to 63 seconds, but as far as trademarks go, DKC 2's is definitely wrong warping. DKC 3 is the more vanilla, I would like to say, of the three. It's just rolling monkeys, jumping, platforming. It has one excruciating frame-perfect trick in Bleak Skip, but for the most part, all three of them just rely on optimal movement and timing your jumps out of your rolls, things like that.
Cool. Before we move on, there was one more thing. You had said that this is sort of the rise of Discord. I was just thinking about it. Was the DKC community pretty splintered or like separated? Like where you said you organized? Where did you organize from? Like what was before Discord?
The majority of the runners congregated on IRC.
Okay.
And most of the runners that congregated in IRC resisted switching to Discord, and that's fine for them. They're used to their UI. We're used to our UI. There's no bad blood at all. But I wouldn't say splintered. There was a bit of a divide because there was a bit of a lack of communication between the old guard and the new guard. The new guard being the ones that had organized in the Discord, and the old guard being the ones that set the standards for what a good run was. The pioneers of the game.
Okay. Any notable names from those pioneers?
The one that comes to mind immediately is Claude. He's put probably the most effort into tutorials and making game knowledge accessible than most other people. DG's is up there, Christmas presents.
There's a guy named Christmas Presents.
A girl, actually, yes.
A girl named Christmas Presents.
Yeah.
That's a great name.
CRISMAS, Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, play on her name. But that kind of guard back in the day. Like if you look at the AGDQ, I think it was 2014, the four-way race between Claude, Dragon Ball Joseph, Krauser, and who's the last one? Reflected, right? They pretty much symbolize the old guard. The ones that stuck to the IRC and the ones that, set the foundation for us to take the community and go.
I gotcha. Would you say that any of them made the jump to Discord eventually?
Yes, a few of them.
I was going to ask. I think Claude was a big name that you said. Did Claude make the jump or no?
No, he still resists Discord a little bit. He'll join for certain tournaments. He'll join for events, but he's not a big fan of it. And I don't entirely know why. That's his prerogative, and I don't judge him for it.
That's fair. I'm just curious.
Right.
So I think I want to talk to Claude, but I don't know how it's going to work.
Probably the best way might be to get a hold of him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or to maybe slide into his Twitch DMs as well. I'm not sure if he has them open, but he's kind of a reserved fellow.
Okay.
So good luck getting a hold of him.
All right. We'll see. Okay. So now that we covered that stuff, so what are your favorite aspects of DKC2? Like, what is it that keeps you coming back?
For me, that's quite the question. I've had a pretty tumultuous relationship with DKC2.
Okay.
Where some days it can make you feel like you're on top of the world, and some days it can make you feel like you're nothing at all. I think that the highs are what keep me coming back. Nailing that wrong warp on really good pace is very, very satisfying. As opposed to making a tiny error and losing your run. It's a very punishing speed game. It requires a lot of discipline and a lot of focus. It's one of the harder speed runs, in my opinion, especially if it's your first speed run like it was for mine.
Yeah, imagine. Could you go into the really punishing parts? You said getting the wrong warp on a good pace run, or how hard are wrong warps to get on a regular on a scale
If
of
you
1 to
know
10?
the routine, if you know the routine and you know the script, then wrong warps can be pretty easy with a lot of practice. It's up to interpretation, I think, as to what constitutes a hard wrong warp. Some people think slime climb is a very hard wrong warp. Some people think bramble scramble is a very hard wrong warp. Some people don't even need to think to do execute those. They've done it so much, or they just don't find it very challenging, or they've just figured out what makes it tick. So it's really up to interpretation. But I say the biggest like punishment is probably failing a wrong warp, because that can lose you up to, it's like starting just like a minute alone, especially one like slime climb or bramble scramble as well is close to 30 seconds. So that's what I mean by like low lows, especially when you're like if you get into slime climb on really 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 good pace, and the nerves can make you miss one small detail that'll set an ID wrong, and all of a sudden you're back in a bonus game wondering what happened.
Hmm. So, based on my knowledge of how wrong warps work, if you fail a wrong warp, then instead of sending you out of the stage like it normally, like you it would expect it to, it would take you to the bonus stage instead.
Depends on which wrong warp you're doing. Like ones that use bonus barrels will take you to a bonus stage if you fail them.
Mm-hmm.
Slime climb in particular, if you fail it, like if you're still holding the invisible object while facing left and you run into the barrel, it will launch you into the bonus, but you can just fail it and it'll start you right back at the beginning. Whereas if you beat the bonus, it'll start you halfway. So it's kind of situational what happens. Like failing the crockhead clamber wrong warp it's different because it doesn't use a barrel as an exit point. It uses the cutlass's ID itself.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the Castle Crush wrong warp. It uses the IDs of the enemies, not necessarily just the barrels.
Mm-hmm.
So like you could soft lock very easily in Castle Crush if you go in too late or if you go in too early, because the crusher will stop and you can't move up or down or anything.
Yeah. And then I guess if it soft locks, you have to reset, and that means your run's dead.
Oh yes.
Man.
Low lows.
Oh, man, that's Castle Crush. That's way late in the run. That's World 6, right?
Exactly.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
And the wrong warp really was a save. Like it was a save. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not a savior. It was like a it was a blessing. That's probably the word I was looking for.
Okay.
It's a blessing because it shaves a minute off the already minute that we were saving from doing the summon of the goalpost.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, which was a lot more punishing to lose because you had to carry that barrel halfway up the stage, and if you break it or if you drop it, well, guess what?
Yeah. Could you explain the old Castle Crush skip with the summon thing?
Well, it was one of the oldest documented tricks, I believe, and it was the biggest time save. It still is the wrong warp over anything else, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the summon worked in a way where you would take the barrel, the first DK barrel at the beginning of the stage, we called it the companion barrel, and bring it up to halfway. Break it on a wall so that it gives you an invisible object, and the crusher having such unique properties, you would take damage, which would then execute some strange code that would bring the goal down to you, and there you go. You would just jump on it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
some people, I'm not entirely sure exactly how it worked. I heard that it actually zips the crusher up to the end, but keeps the background sort of the same. I've heard it zips the target down to you. I'm not entirely sure personally, but I know what to do to get it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like the flow chart.
Yeah,
if this happens, do this. Did this happen? Do this kind of thing.
I gotcha. Yeah, I saw a video of it, and I was like, okay, there it is. It just works.
Yeah, and the thing about that, too, is that the Castle Crush summon was discovered at a time where the speedrun wasn't nearly as optimized as it is now, where getting all the tricks in a run was secondary to just having a clean run. Especially back then, 2010, I want to say, 2011, maybe 2012.
Yeah. You said it was the oldest documented run. Do you remember when roughly it was found, or do you know any stuff about it around the time it was found, or?
It was discovered. Looks like it was discovered around 2010. I'm not sure who discovered it.
Okay.
But the world record holder at the time, Feast, used it to save about a minute and a half on his next run. And shortly later that year, the slime climb and chain link chamber wrong warps were discovered. So, as far as what the game looked like back then, I don't know, to be honest with you. It was definitely different as to what it is now.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I
sure.
said, the main concern was just trying to get a clean run as opposed to one that had all the wrong warps and all the tricks.
I gotcha. Okay. So speaking of wrong warps and tricks, some things were found back in the day, but there have been some more recent ones, I would say, in the last couple of years. I would imagine that you'd be around in the community at the time that those were discovered, right?
Yeah, I came into the community about a year or so after the Bramble Scramble wrong warp was discovered. So all my runs, I never had to do Bramble Scramble warpless in a run, thankfully, until I learned warpless. But that was at the time was the most recent discovery. Saved 30-ish seconds out. No, more than that. Probably close to a minute. But yeah, after that was found around March, I guess, 2017, the Crockett Clamber wrong warp was discovered by Japanese Tassers. Actually, originally it was the Fiery Furnace wrong warp that was discovered by the Tassers, and its properties were applied to Crockett Clamber, and we were able to save about 20 seconds off of a normal warpless run there. Then shortly after that was the Castle Crush wrong warp, and now we're in it. We're in the Arctic Zip age.
Yeah, that one's that's a little interesting.
That one's definitely it's a departure from classic DKC2 tech and skips, I think, back like compared to back in the day. This one, it takes a level that was so reliant on proper movement and good, control of the animal buddy on guard, and now all you have to do is lure a fish to a corner, rub up against a wall, and swap. It's such a departure from what makes DKC2 speedrunning movement,
Yeah, that's an interesting one because it's just it's like I haven't seen any other zips in the game. There's just that one. Are there other zips?
If you count the Castle Crush summon as a zip, I guess that could be it.
Okay.
As far as zips go, no. There's the Fiery Furnace one that's used in the 102% category.
Okay.
That one you take damage at a specific time, and in the movement barrel, and you jump back into it, and you pretty much just wrap yourself around the screen just by holding left. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's one of the bigger skips in 102.
Okay, cool. All right. So what is the community, or what's it like being in the community when like a big wrong warp like those are discovered?
Oh, it's bumping. There's a lot going on. A lot of people trying to figure out, how it works. People trying to do runs right away to get a PB with it. I know that's what I did when the Castle Crush wrong warp was discovered. I wanted to do a run with it immediately to get that time save, and a minute was just too tempting to ignore. So a lot of us just spent the day in voice calls, doing runs, trying to encourage each other and whatnot.
There you go. Okay.
Actually, a fun fact about that, the Castle Crush wrong warp, around when it was discovered, I was the first one actually to do it live in a marathon. I did it at NASA 2018.
Nice. Was it discovered like during the marathon?
No.
Not like during, but
no. It was discovered. Oh, geez, let me put a timeline here. I think it was discovered around May 2018. My run was in June, so it was about a month or so.
2 weeks. Yeah, a couple weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, I was the first one to do it live in a marathon. It's pretty neat. Got a first try. Hype moment.
There you go.
You can use that video too if you want. It's pretty cool. It's an old setup, but
okay. And you said on it was NASA
2018, yeah.
NASA 2018. I will write a note down so I'll remember.
There you go.
It's the Castle Crush wrong warp. All right. So that kind of goes into what I was going to ask you next. This is kind of a broad question, but do you have any stories like, or does DKC have stories, right? Like rivalries between runners or big success stories or notable PBs or records or anything like, is there anything that really stands out?
Well, uh, in the era where Japan had finally we talked about this at the time when Japan had finally been defeated and someone from North America had taken the world record for the first time. That was reflected back in 2013. Him and Claude had a very, very entertaining rivalry. They bopped each other back and forth for the better part of 2 years. In any percent, sometimes one of them would have the record for 100 days, and then the other would have it for 10 days, and then 4 days, and 3 days, and then a month, and then a couple hours. It was very, very intense until Void got the 40-35, and it's been his show ever since, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed.
As for rivalries, I guess that covers it. Tournament we already talked about. No, I don't think there's been any real newsworthy things about the game, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Void has been dominating that game for the better part of 5 years, with only a handful of runners that have been able to contend with him, and even fewer that have actually taken the world record from him, but not for very long. I guess it's pretty storied in that sense, and where one runner has dominated the category for so long.
Yeah. That's the fact that he's been so dominant is noteworthy. But so I see every once in a while I will see another name will take the record, but then he just takes it right back pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's his ball,
Yeah,
my ball. No one's allowed to have it.
Do you think he's pretty protective of that record, or is it just happenstance?
I think he cares about that one a little more than the rest, I think.
Okay.
But you'd have to ask him. I think when someone takes a DKC2 80% world record, it does light a fire under him just for a little bit, and then he just kind of takes it back. But I think that's about the most protective over a category he gets.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean protective as in like he's like literally fighting people in the streets.
No, I know what you meant.
Okay. Yeah, so there's like some big jumps or big gaps in time on some of these records. Like Void will get the world record. I'm trying to see. I have a chart here. Yeah, he got after the Crockhead Clamber. There we go. Got the words out.
Alliteration.
So Void gets the record in like April 2017, and then a full year later, is it IZ or LZ? I can never tell.
LZ, yes.
LZ gets the record a year later, and then obviously Void takes it back like a couple weeks later. But do you remember anything about about LZ taking the record from Void?
LZ was a grinder for sure. He had a bad habit of resetting a lot in the early game, and because of it, he only took really, really, really good starts. So it took him a little while to actually catch up to Void, but his grind was one for the ages for sure.
I believe it. Do you know how long he was grinding for? Like, were you guys paying attention to that?
Well, I'm not exactly sure how long he was grinding, like, on the whole, but I know that it was a good few months that he was contending for the world record and was on pace multiple times. And by pace, I mean almost 10 seconds. And to see now that he only bopped him by 3 seconds, it goes to show where the nerves can really come from in a game like that.
Absolutely. Okay, that answers my question. Grinding for a few months. Only PB by 3. That is a little unfortunate, but hey, you know what? Sometimes it happens, man.
Never want to PB by too much, right? I think that's what the kids are saying these days.
Sure. I don't know which kids are saying it, but
it's a saying in the community where we kind of make light of PBing by only a second or 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. Sorry, you go ahead.
I was going to say there's a bit of a scramble. I was going to move on, but if you want to finish your thought.
I was just going to mention that if you were talking about the community and their quirks and things like that, we're definitely we definitely have our quirks. We have our inside jokes and our memes, and people can sometimes struggle to get into. But I mean, most communities do.
Yeah,
we're certainly no
absolutely.
different.
Absolutely. Okay, so other notable ones besides LZ, I noticed that after the Castle Crash Wrong Warp, there's like a ton of world records all within a couple of days. I think I see Canis and Void and Stu, and then Void again.
Yeah,
Krypton.
It was a big scramble, literally, for the world record. But once Void got that 38, it kind of died down. When I remember going to sleep that night, May 20th, 2018, and waking up to see a new world record by quite a lot, too. I was thinking to myself, wait, how did you save so much time? Because at the time, the 3940 was very optimized.
Right.
And then when I woke up the next day and saw Canis had PB'd by 30 seconds, or he was a 39.2x. I think he had a death somewhere in the first one, and we lost the footage. But later on in the day, Canis got a couple more PBs of low 39s. I think now he's at a 39.02. That 38 was a bit of a hump he couldn't quite get over, but I'm sure he'll be back to claim what's rightfully his. And then Void had it with another, quote by his standards, subpar run, a 39.03, and then Stu took it for a couple, very, very brief time, and then Void pretty much had it since. Krypton's grind was certainly something. He was one of the names I mentioned in the tournament, where if you look at the results, you could see how much better he got. And it was quite astounding how good he got. I remember racing him, way back in the day, and we were almost neck and neck a lot. He beats me, I beat him, kind of thing, and then he goes on to be a world record holder. It's kind of it's crazy. People you used to race like that.
I know the feeling. Quick, really short diversion. I won't stay on it too long. Whenever I first started grinding the game that I play, which is Pokemon Snap, me and this other guy, wonderful. Me and this other guy from he was from Switzerland. We both started at the same time, and I even have messages of like, oh, we're not going to grind for a 21, like a 23 is where we want to go, and then after that I'll probably retire. I don't want to grind for the world record, and
once you get that taste, eh?
Yeah, but it's so funny looking back on it, where we were like, oh yeah, we don't want to get to the top, we just want to get like most of the way there, and then we'll cut it, and then he goes on to get world record, and he's an amazing, just godlike speedrunner, and I'm still I'm better now, but
hey, don't sell yourself short, man. We're all good at certain things.
Oh, thanks, man. I'm number 6, so he's number 3, 4, something like that.
Well, 6 is better than 7, right?
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. So I don't want to dwell on it, and I don't want you to dwell on it if you don't want to. But where does Stu fit in the history here? I know there was some controversy, and we don't have to talk about it. But so he takes world record, which means that he was a top runner at the time, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he still is. We haven't talked a lot since something unfortunate happened a couple of years ago. But yeah, Stu was a top runner. He had his time with the world record for 5 hours and grinded for a little bit afterwards for 38, and moved on to other categories.
Okay.
He has all his times and things documented on a doc in his profile if you're interested in looking at that.
I might take a peek just to see, but I don't know. We're probably not going to talk about Stu too much, just for everyone's sake.
Yeah, it's a bit of a touchy subject. Depends who you talk to. I wasn't there when what happened, so I'm kind of neutral on the whole thing. But being a moderator, you have to make some decisions, right?
Yeah, no, I understand. So that's why it's kind of like, I don't know what happened. I'm not judging anybody, but it seems it's a touchy subject.
It's best if it's just left alone, to be honest.
We're just gonna move on. All right. So let's see here. What are my next questions? Okay. So we talked about how, everyone seems to do these crazy rises, and then Krypton in particular really gets into his own, I guess you could say. in the tournament, and then he gets to a point where he can actually take the world record. Just a few years later. This is also probably a touchy subject. Krypton doesn't submit any of his times to the leaderboards?
No, not on speedrun.com. We have a handful of runners that prefer not to have their time published on that website, and we respect it.
That's fair.
Their choice. It's their accomplishment if they choose to put it on the website or not.
Yeah, that's fair. I thought I looked at even the DKC Speedruns wiki, and I didn't see it, but maybe it's under a different name or something, but I just didn't notice.
He may be under Kryptonberry. He may be under Kryptotonberry. He's done...
no, I didn't see any of those.
He's changed his name a few times.
Okay. I'll look again. But I could have sworn he had on his Twitch profile, it says that his time is like a 38:23 or something. Am I crazy? At least that's what like one of his highlights said. So I thought maybe that was his PB, but that would put him at like second place behind Void. But LZ is second place.
The wiki a little bit.
What's up?
Sorry, you said something?
I was talking. I get maybe we dropped, Discord dropped for a second.
Oh.
I was saying, I looked on the wiki and I thought his time was a 38:23 based on his Twitch highlight. I didn't actually time it, so I don't know. But on that would put him at second place on the wiki, and I don't see his name on there because Miss LZ is like a couple seconds after that.
Was that a recent tweet that he made?
No, I don't know. I have to look at it again because
I believe I believe the world record now is 38:19. With the Arctic Zip. But I think the last run that I noticed from Krypton is 38:32.
Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's just them. They choose not to have their times published anywhere,
okay.
And that's their prerogative. We're not going to force them.
Yeah,
it does unfortunately leave us in situations like this where there's holes in something that we're trying to document. But I mean, I don't hold it against them. It's their prerogative. It's their accomplishments.
No, that's all.
Some people actually erased their times off the wiki when the migration to speedrun.com happened. It's a very passionate subject to bring up in the Discord.
Yeah, man, leaderboards. Something about speedrunners and leaderboards, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it is what it is. But
yeah,
it's like I said, we let them do what they want to do. You know, moderators act on behalf of the community. You know, the community wants this done, then we act on that behalf. Gotcha.
All right, let's move on to a different topic.
Sure.
So, there have been several TASes for the game over the years. It's kind of weird to ask, but how noteworthy are the TASes? Like, have they impacted the run much at all, or?
Yeah, every time a new task comes out, we get together and watch it and pick apart what we can from it and see what we can apply RTA. I believe there's a barrel skip in Bramble Blast that we took from the task. I believe the Ramby Rumble Death Jump was taken from the task. The improved 2-1 wrong warp that saves a second was taken from the task. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, anyway. I'm sure there's lots more that was taken from it.
Probably.
Specifically in Windy Well, Diddy Windy and stuff.
I know you had mentioned earlier that some of the wrong warps were found by, I think, Japanese tassers, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So that kind of leads me into my next part. The Japanese seems to have played a big role in the history, especially in the early days. But even now, some of their top runners are world record contenders with LZ, and they're finding a lot of these wrong warps and things. What do you think are some of the things that the Japanese community has brought to the table that's either different or similar to the Western community?
Oh, that's a good question. I wasn't around when the Japanese were the sole runners of the game back in the early 2010s. So I can't speak to what the run quality was like.
Right.
But I do know that the Japanese I've noticed when it comes to the Donkey Kong Country games is their execution is just on another level when it comes to everybody else. They're just so focused during runs.
Mhm.
That discipline, I think, is what separates the Japanese from the North Americans or the rest of the world. They focus so hard and they practice, they hone their craft. It's like a career.
Yeah, that's respectable. So would you say that still applies? Like LZ, I think LZ is Japanese, right?
Yes, he is. I believe now he's on the. He might still be playing any percent, maybe trying to get the world record back. I've not been paying attention, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I believe he is still doing runs. Dosaria is doing 102%. Tonkatsu is probably one of the more decorated Japanese speedrunners these days. He's got world records in a lot of categories. Mostly like on the off leaderboards, things like reverse boss order or no major glitches, things like that. He's had
Mhm.
world records in, but he's definitely on another level when it comes to execution. He learns things very quickly and applies them very quickly.
Awesome. Yeah. A couple people, I think you might have, but I know Void mentioned I should maybe talk to Tonkatsu. So I might have to reach out to him. Okay. I think that's all of my questions that I have for you for now.
Sorry, you cut out there for about
Oh,
30 seconds. I didn't hear what you said after I finished what I was saying.
yeah, I think Discord's being weird.
It,
But
it
anyways,
could be my internet. I'm on Wi-Fi. So.
gotcha. Um, I just said that that's all the questions that I have for you. I think at the moment. This is a really good interview. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Well, likewise. I'm glad I could help. If you have any more questions, please feel free. I love answering people's questions and helping them whatever I can.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm not the most accomplished speedrunner in the community, so I feel like I need to contribute in other ways. And if this is how I contribute, then this is what I do.
Hey, well, you know what? I appreciate it regardless. So
Oh shucks, thanks, man. I appreciate what you're doing too.
hell yeah.
Love
All right.
bringing more good publicity to the English is hard. Love bringing more good publicity to the community.
Yeah, it's definitely good.
Man,
Let's
that
go ahead.
first speed doc you did about all stages, I still watch from time to time. It was so good.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. I guess to talk a little bit about it. Yeah, that was I guess we could say our breakout video, but I'm really proud of that one.
It was very well produced and very well put together. So kudos to you, absolutely, you and your team.
Thank you. All right. Well, on that high note, let's go ahead and end this recording here, and we'll talk a little bit more here. Let's go ahead.